Hello everyone and welcome once again to Royal Grown Radio. We have a very special episode today. We are blessed to be up in the Hudson Valley, Woodstock region in New York, about 45 minutes from Woodstock, right in the heart of kind of the counterculture center of New York, about an hour and a half outside of New York City. I'm Michael Beck, joined with a very special co-host and longtime friend, Marcus Messina, and special guest, resident here of the Hudson Valley, deep in many aspects of the cannabis movement here, Colin Decker. Thanks for joining us today, Colin.
Thank you guys for having me. Right on.
So, you're owner of Seaz Premium Cannabis.
Yep.
Founder of Sensei Consulting.
Yep.
East Coast representative for Ziploc Seeds.
That's right.
And many other things. Tell us a little bit about, the current manifestation of what you're doing.
I'd say it's probably like a culmination of like 17 years of my life so far into the cannabis space. Having started at a young age with mom and dad who believed in the mission and blessed me with the gift to learn how to cultivate and be taught how to do it right. So I'm a career cultivator by this point. Created a wonderful Legacy the Legal brand. First person to do it in New York State to hit the market, coming from Legacy. Been consulting in the space since 2018, running the oldest agency in New York for cannabis, and then working with my boys out in Oregon, great people from Ziploc Seed. They've been breeding for 20 plus years, crushing it, second generation craft breeder. And now we're just, continuing on the great work that they're doing and bringing it to the East Coast, bringing select cultivars, terp profile, disease, mold resistant plants, all that stuff, so that the cultivators here can actually really benefit from the crops that they're going to grow. That's
incredible. I've worked with the Ziploc guys a few times, been next to them at different events, Kansas City Expo, just saw them at Cannafest out in Humboldt. Yeah. Here we are gearing up for Cannastock here in the Hudson Valley, so that's what brings us here and all together today. And something that struck me is we got here and it was warm and muggy and on the tail end of some beautiful weather, and now it's dumping rain, crazy muggy, humid. Y'all deal with some really adverse conditions up here. It's a lot like what we deal with in Humboldt, Southern Oregon, in that kind of coastal range. And it really kind of hit me like, wow, they really do need to lean on some of those genetics from the West Coast. And I'm sure there's some legacy genetics here that you guys are playing with too that have weathered the decades of the storm. Yeah, for sure. I mean, some people have cuts, heirloom cuts that have been around for a long time. Some things you can run them anywhere, right? Yeah. Ins, outs, depths, anything, and it hits. No PM, no botrytis, no issues with it. But then a lot of the cats that have those cuts took 10, 15 years to find, and it's a lot like the stories I've always heard from up in Mendel with the Urkel, and like what people did with the Urkel and then how that went about. And so here a lot of people don't want to bless that cut if they have something that runs great. And so it's people getting out here and running those things from West Coast. We're running Ziploc on 6 different farms, we're running different cuts in different spaces. Some people ran it in the depths, we ran it out. We're trying different things and bringing those cultivars here to figure it out, But the climate here is harsh, bro, And it seems like, and correct me if I'm wrong, but with all these hills and valleys and lakes, you deal with the microclimates. Yeah, it's so different. It's called Hudson Valley for a reason, right? Like this is the new Emerald Triangle. When you look at the map of the valley, it's literally a triangle where it hits all 3 points. And it has its completely different microclimates. In Orange County, where you're cultivating, about, whatever the elevation is compared to going even further up north, it's so different from like Ithaca, New York to Orange County, New York, where you're going to see in the microclimate. Yeah. And just even the air quality, what the humidity spikes are like, are your plants going to grab that PM, from everything just drastically changing all the time? It's so different. It's so different. And you've got a ton of forest, a ton of true natural element that harbors all of those natural organisms. And you're really on a similar latitude as Humboldt here as well. You know, I think the top of your triangle is maybe a little more coordinated with the bottom of our triangle, but it's right in that same latitude zone. Yeah. So there's been so much amazing cannabis. We've talked about this with a few different people throughout the podcast. There's heritage here. People have been growing cannabis since the 60s and beyond, right?
Yeah.
Do you see a lot of those legacy cultivators, aside from, you know, your folks and being second generation? Are you seeing people bringing that legacy into the market? Are those folks kind of falling out and just letting the market come up on its own with some of the younger generation? What are you seeing there?
I mean, a lot of people are nervous about going to the legal. You know, for me, I took the leap. Like, I was blessed, like I said, at a young age. Now, mom and dad weren't growers. Like, they just knew that, like, I had a gift and gave me the opportunity with a tin of seeds that came from Amsterdam and a shaving kit and said, here, go and experiment with it. You know,
Sweet.
We're going to bless you. Go with it. And dad, you know, just lost dad 2 months ago to cancer. But
Respect.
you know, dad believed in it and built my first grow room, hung the HPSs for me. You know, threw up the sheetrock and the drywall and then the vapor barriers and threw up the Panda film. It was like, this is how we do it. You know, he was 50-year union construction guy.
Right, yeah.
You know, steam fitter all the way through, and was, you know, 4 a.m. on the job site, banging pipe, you know, doing it. And he said to me, he was like, listen, if we're going to do it, I know the construction side of it, but you got to teach yourself and learn through failure and trial and error how to grow the plant. And I did. And so it wasn't easy, you know, like, but running CMHs and running HPS and having dad run the electric and having the hard wire in, you know, and like cut into the shit and splice it in, like, you know.
Your grow room was looking a lot better than many others out there. Probably.
It was sick, you know, and being at that age, couldn't tell anybody, couldn't tell other kids, like going to school, can't be like, oh bro, come home, come see my house, like, come see the 6-7 lighter I got going, where it's just the whole thing's lit up like a spaceship. You know? And I got moms that are like 5-6 feet tall, you know, in 25-gallon pots. Like, you can't do that. So, you know, it was so different. But, you know, to come from where I did to where I am now, I made that leap, and dad was around when I made it before he passed, and I promised him, I said, listen, I'm going fully legal, dad. You know, I have to leave legacy behind. I still respect it, love it. I don't forget my roots, but it's time for me to come out of the shadows full force. Like, I'm walking away, you know, and I made the promise to him, and he was like, just go for it. His only thing to me before he passed was, don't fuck it up. Just came this far, don't fuck it up.
Just do it.
Just do it, kid. Let it rip, go big or go home, but don't fuck it up. Take care of mom and don't fuck it up. That was it.
That's a heavy charge, and also, you know, a heavy drive. You know, you're like, you can do it with that spirit of carrying on. That's amazing. I started with my old man too. He's luckily still with us, but I started with him.
Nice. Kind
of similar. He was setting up a grow room when I was 15. I'm like, I know what you're doing here. I know what this stuff is for. And you know, they did it like 70s style with fluorescence and shit. And I had to come in and be like,
I love T5 still, bro.
Yeah, I love a T5.
Love T5s, dude.
But not for flower.
No, but veg T5 is nothing like it, bro.
Yeah, and you know, we got to learn from that old school legend. That's how I started, was under fluorescence, and was like, Dad, let's bring this up a notch. And, you know, he stopped growing years back and still is, you know, partakes, but it's like, to carry on that connection with your family, it gives a different nuance.
It does. Listen, I mean, that's what New York is about too, and Humboldt's about, right? Mendo's about, Trinity, like those areas, it's family grows, right? For the most part, we've seen a lot of corporate come in, right? Especially out west, people gobbling up property, snatching licenses up, coming in, MSOs doing it, and it's starting to happen here already. I mean, growers are being approached. Let me get that license. I'll buy it from you for, you know, whatever, or we'll give you 49%, but the person will never get paid because the business will never be profitable. You know, it's like just the shadiness of it. But then there's some really small scale craft, family run ops out here where it's like, dude, these guys have been pumping solid batches for, you know, 10, 15 years.
Yeah.
Just crushing.
Right, because I mean, out here, like, there's obviously weed before, but like in the 90s, the Beaster, the Canadian weed movement, like, all of a sudden it was just like waves of really pretty all right cannabis. It elevated it from, you know, the smash mash maxi, you know, but I'm from Michigan.
We moved a lot of brick, man.
weed, bro. Like,
we used to smoke shit tons of brick, man. White owls, everything. Like, we would hollow anything out that we could and just throw it all in there.
Yeah.
Burn the whole thing down. Like, that's what we started on, was the brick.
and that's not that long back.
No. It's not.
And then that BC movement happened early 2000s and changed a lot of people's perspective on what weed is, right? At least it was green. It was sometimes too wet. Sometimes
Always
wasn't
rock
mature.
hard, dude.
It was rock hard, PGRs. all
PGR,
that.
yeah. It was always golf balls with orange hairs wrapped on it. They wouldn't even dry it fully. They'd air seal it and then send it down from BC in the 18 wheelers. Because when we had droughts, like people, I keep saying this, people don't remember droughts, dude.
Yeah.
We used to have droughts.
Right.
And when we needed to keep fed and pay the bills, beasters were there.
It was it.
And we come down, those went 3 for $50, you know, like everything. We were moving beasters great. And it was that M39 strain that they were growing, that cut. And I think from what we heard and predominantly knew, it was like the Korean gangs that were running it out of British Columbia, and they were bringing it down. And then, I'm telling you, dude, like droughts happen and beasters would always show up. And then we were fed, like we could eat off the beasters.
Right?
Yeah, we were moving packs, man.
And New York's brains were fed, right? Their
Yes.
heads were fucking full. There was herb there for people, and it lit a fire under everybody. Like, I can grow weed this good. This isn't that good.
Yep.
You know, you'd get good batches. Don't get me wrong.
Sure,
I'm not
sure.
saying Canadian weed is bad, but
No.
most of what we saw coming through in that time was all right at best.
But it's funny because right around that time is when like Humboldt really started to shine, and all that stuff was making its rounds. You know, like shortly after that kind of kicked out. I mean, you don't see beasters anymore, obviously, right? I mean,
No.
they're non-existent now. But Humboldt kind of came up around that time, or had that wave of getting it out to the people, you know, and then it was like, oh, I got some Humboldt weed.
Well, it was
like,
always more expensive.
Yeah.
And then they clamped down on the border, and Humboldt production went up, and they were able to bring it down to that like 36 to 38 beaster price.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's when it
100%.
like the script flipped.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. I mean, Dro became big around here around then. Like, when beasters hit, that's like when people started running Dro, like running that hydro setup, those deep water culture setups.
Yep.
And it was just all hairs. Like it was just the most eerie pounds ever, like just pure pillows.
Yeah.
Just big, you know, zips were like just bulging on the seams, dude.
Yeah.
It was just all hair.
And it tasted like hay.
It was like you could take, it was water, dude. It was just like what it grew in. It looked so pretty sometimes, or like really dope, but then it would be just soulless. Like it had no soul to it, no depth.
Right.
Because you just burn it, it's just water.
Yeah.
And I'm so glad you say that, because, you know, that's a lot of people's complaint currently about corporate cannabis. So like it's soulless weed, right? Like it may have some flavor, it may be all right, but there's like this hollowness to it. And that's where I'm super stoked to sit down with you and talk about this legacy here in the Valley, because that's where that true soul cannabis comes in. You're chasing real terps. You're chasing real profiles.
100%.
And you're trying to bring something of substance to the people.
Yeah.
Now, I know this is very much in flux, but there's been a tremendous issue with rollout in New York, right? Especially bringing to retail.
100%.
Are you starting to see the changes? I heard there were some permits coming out like just last week even. Some changes to the permitting.
We were sitting online yesterday on the internet, just staring at the NICEF, the New York application. It's a portal for all the court documents. So like we were playing detective with it. Literally, I'm on the phone with 2 dispensary owners, on the phone with them. We're chopping it out. I'm like, listen, I'm refreshing it. I'm digging through the affidavits and the addendums and everything, playing lawyer with it, looking at when this was submitted, what happened, what's going on, is the court objecting to this, is the attorney filing an affidavit, in support document, doing all this work just to find out, all right, 4 of my people got through, 4 more stores got through yesterday.
Sweet.
And they're exempt, and they're already built out, and so now they're going to get rocking. And one of my guys is still on the edge of it, hasn't gotten the okay, but he should be good. And it's ridiculous, dude, that we're having to live like this and play like this to just know I can go and sell some tree, legally and pay the tax to the store that's been built out for 3 months, that's been inspected by the government for 3 months, that's been approved by the municipality, you know, all because the Chads wanted to sue and then get an injunction because they didn't get the license when they wanted it.
Right.
You know, but yet they just opened up full adult licensing. Apps just opened up on the 4th. So anybody can apply for a full adult use cannabis license right now. Anyone. All right. And it's crazy, you know, that they did all this to hold us back for 2 months, 2 to 3 months, whatever it's been, to stall the market out. Well, now we're, you know, there's nothing that can really halt it other than more lawsuit. Like, everybody can keep throwing wrenches into the gears, but ultimately, like, this market's gonna hit. It's the biggest in the world. New York is the biggest market in the world.
I mean, New York City seems like it can eat up some pounds like nobody's business.
But the problem there, dude, is like there's 2,000, if not more, illegal dispos in the city right now that are just sticker shops, and they're not legacy, bro.
Yeah.
They're opportunistic people that were running like a bodega or like, you know, whatever, smoke shop, glass shop, and they're not community, they're not from the culture. They're just opportunistic cats who, they hit up a burner distro out in Cali, they buy all the rejected packs, you know, that get backdoored out, and then they bring it all in, and it's like everybody's slinging Stizzy, everybody's slinging, you know, like Jeters and like Sluggers, and you know, they got Backpack Boys, Jungle Boys, like everything you could think of,
right,
bro. There's the cookies, Sherb, you know, they're slinging lemonade, like everything that's on the market out west has made its way here.
And are you seeing that true quality representation, or are you seeing it, you know, imposter brands? And
Definitely. I mean, you know, I've talked with a lot of brands that have come here that, like, to the reps of certain brands, you know, I don't want to name them.
Sure.
It's like, and I've talked with them, and they're like, that's for sure not our product, bro. Like, they're definitely buying packaging in San Fran, you know, and
that makes sense. I mean, I drove recently from Buffalo through the entire state, and I thought it was, what was mind blowing to me was there were like food truck style dispensaries parked on a lot, you know, the size of this room, and it would just be in rural New York, like on some back road highway, nowhere, and they'd be like, "Come get your cannabis here," giant sign, literally a food truck. You know, style of a dispensary. I've never seen that before.
It seems like a nightmare for enforcement currently because they're trying to allow it to get off the ground, but there's all this bullshit backdoor that you're talking about that, like, people want shut down, but then people don't have access to medicine because the state hasn't allowed real dispensaries to proliferate properly. We dealt with all the same things in California. It's such a challenge. I mean, it's hard to watch it happen elsewhere. New York's done a lot of things right. So I'm really interested to see with this new step, some of these new permits coming out.
I like that. I was going to say, I like that more states are starting to incorporate like the micro business license, the attainable
vertical
person, you know, without having to have millions and millions of dollars in the bank to be able to produce their own cannabis and make their own brand if they want to, because ultimately that's I think it's best for business, even if you have a bunch of people that get in, you know, inevitably not everyone is going to rise to the top, but having that competition or being a small time grower and being able to, you know, create like a craft boutique brand, you know, maybe that person doesn't need more than 350 plants or, you know, whatever.
3,500 square feet indoor.
I mean, 3,500 square feet's it's a little, that's decent, you know, for a micro license.
Yeah, you could get some stuff out of there for sure. I mean, you know, like the limits on things are wild. You know, the idea of like the cheapest license out there, which is crazy, is like outdoor nursery, which is like an interesting one. Like outdoor nursery, 100,000 square feet, right? $2,000 for 2 years.
Wow.
So, I mean,
you can crank a lot of clones out of 100,000 square feet outdoor.
You know what I mean? Like outdoor nursery, and that's just wild. You know, they have all these like cooperative licenses, co-ops and things, which are cool, you know?
Did you guys as a community and legacy growers have any voice within the governing system of how these laws were written? Or I mean, like where does something like that come from? Is that a mistake?
I mean, to be honest, like they made it seem like, oh, we're gonna have public opinion. You know, I had since the beginning, right when the MRTA passed, the bill that allowed all of it to become legal here, I reached out to the government and I was like, listen, I'm offering pro bono through my consulting company, great rep, the whole thing. Let's work together. Just trying to guide the industry here to make sure it's benefiting the farmer, make sure the small craft people are getting, accounted for.
Yep.
This doesn't go to the wayside to the MSOs. It was just crickets. Fell on deaf ears,
Right.
I've talked with tons of all the people in the OCM in person, and it's just they'll smile at you and be like, "Oh yeah, we care," we have to talk, and it's like they don't give a shit.
Right.
They claim that we learn from mistakes from other states. They've made a shit ton already. Some good things have happened.
Yep.
They've done some things right, but it's also the ineptitude and the lack of experience. Nobody is from the culture or the industry running any of it. I think that's kind of common, right?
Yeah, and sad.
And sad because you're speaking. That'd be like me trying to advocate for something I have no business speaking on, right?
Yeah.
I've never lived a life. I'm gonna go and try and talk about it. Get out of here.
Yeah.
I've lived a life. I've struggled. We've done it. I know the plight of the farmer. Like we know what it is. And so to have somebody kind of represent us who ran a coffee shop in Brooklyn, straight up, that's like really what one of the people did, and helped the community board out, whatever. Now is making like $250,000 a year salary of our taxpayer money, and is like the one in charge of our destinies. It's bullshit.
It truly is. And, none of these true legacy, heart purpose growers are going to go in and be like, I'll work for the government and I'll help. They don't
trust them to begin
$250,000.
with.
They don't trust them in the first place, but the money doesn't matter. They'd rather make peanuts and do what's right for them and, fight that good fight. And so that's been one of the main hurdles in getting, true buy-in at the state or governmental level from the industry. Is there's just not a crossover. It's just butting heads with bureaucrats. And that's one thing that, I hope starts to change, but it hasn't changed much in California.
What I keep seeing is this, right? Like a lot of the growers I know, they're like, bro, I don't want to leave the farm. They don't even want to distro the product. They don't want to run it and package it and process it. They're like, bro, I just want to crop out and then be done. Like I want to harvest. I want to flip the room or flip the depths or whatever. Like get next year going. I don't want to do anything else.
Yeah.
I'm already spent. They're like, just the stress alone, we made it to harvest.
Right.
Like we pulled everything. We're keeping an eye on the dry. Like whatever's going on, they just want to run a farm, hermit style, and then just breeze. They don't want to deal with everything else. Mm-hmm. And so it's like when you look at all these other pieces of it, a lot of the guys, they don't even have the energy to be in the activism side or like, to voice it, and I can't fault them.
No, being a farmer's hard.
It's fucking tough, bro.
I mean, look outside today.
It's hard, bro.
If you got fucking, 3,500 square feet outdoor right now, you're panicking. You're like, oh man, get it in.
I just had calls on the way here. My boy's panicking right now. He's like, bro, the dry's full. He's like, the curtains are full to the gills.
Yeah.
He's like, I can't pull anymore. Who do we know that's got some room to dry?
Right.
Seriously. And my boy's right now, he's got freezers full of fresh frozen, sitting on many peas of fresh, that just came down. It's going to be, hydrocarboned out or, whatever they're going to do. Stuff for rosin, all that. And it's like, but dude, we still have a field full. Like we took all the A's, we took all the tops.
And now what?
Now we got all the B's and everything.
Right.
And, all the stuff for bio went, all the autoflowers went, those are different plays that people are doing and it makes sense. But it's like, yeah, dude, calling me up. It's freezing, like cold. Last night it was cold. Then it was hot. It was cold. Humid. Then it started to rain. Then it didn't. It's like the mold is just loving it.
Oh man, it's real.
This is botrytis heaven right now, dude.
I mean, that's kind of the East Coast. It's like the whole East Coast is kind of just
this year
extremely
sucked.
humid.
This year sucked, dude. This growing last year was so rare.
Yeah.
Once every 10 years, we get a year like that, and it's like a true desert summer, just so dry, just doesn't rain, nothing, and it was so perfect last year.
Yeah.
And then this year, all it's done is rain. Like all it has done is rain.
Right.
So like people they didn't really get to feed as much if they were running feed through to drip because it was already saturated, from rainwater. Not many cats run above bed. They don't run beds. They're running straight in the ground, mounds in plastic. Few people have a true mixed light here right now.
Okay. I wanted to ask that.
Very few have. I think there's like 2 or 3 cats with a mixed light. That's
interesting.
Like actually like legit, A lot of hoops and pulling tarps.
Yeah.
And already people are like, never fucking pulling tarps again.
It doesn't take long to learn that lesson, does
And I'm
it?
like, I tell them, like, wait till day 10. If you think you're good now, every night, 6 p.m., you're pulling that tarp.
Yeah.
Wait until like day 10.
Right.
Wait until your knuckles are bleeding from pulling tarp and it's raining and you're still having
You try to get it
pull
over
that
top.
thing.
That's the thing. When you try to get that tarp over top of the existing poly and it's wet and it sticks like instant glue, good luck, bro, trying to shake that tarp.
Bro, I've thrown this tip out there a couple times and I'll throw it again. Dr. Bronner's soap and a squirt gun. Hit your lead edge.
Great idea. Lube it up.
Bend through it, bro. Get it a little slick.
So smart. Because we would always just try and, like, I was running legacy depths too for years, and I would pull tarp by myself. Oh, man. Dude, and I would just fucking, I'd tie the end, with the rope and the heavy, like, couple water bottles on it, twist it on the neck, throw it over the house.
Yeah, run over to the other end.
Yes, dude, and then try and pull, and if it got wet, you'd have to shake it like this to get the air underneath the both layers, and then pop that light depth tarp over top of the whole house. Dude, it was such a pain every time.
Oh man, you see people just like slipping out and shredding.
I ate shit a couple times, dude. No lie, but that's how you learn, man.
The struggle is real.
Yes, and it also makes you a better grower because you have put in that time. You spend that time with the plants. I see some farms out here, dude. They go to the farm 1 day a week. Like straight up, they own a property. They run a couple acres on it. Ounce, they go 1 day a week to check on the plant.
Wow.
And they're just like, oh, I guess they look okay. And you're not a farmer, bro. I hate to tell you, you're not a grower. You're not a farmer.
Yeah.
You're somebody playing farmer.
You're a watcher.
Yeah. You're somebody who wants to post up, and you're gonna pay somebody to trim. You'll pay somebody to run it through and buck it off, and this and that. But you're not a grower, bro.
Well, the plant's really going to give you what you put into it. This plant specifically.
Yes.
I mean, sure, corn, throw it out in the field, let it get water, let it do its thing. Cannabis, it loves to be groomed. It loves to
labor intensive.
Yeah,
man.
It wants you to be around it.
And it's an energetic plant. It wants to interact in a different way. It's like you can feed cannabis in a way you can't feed other plants. No. You can give light to cannabis in a way you can't give other plants. They continue to grow in their output, grow in their consumption, and most plants will max out much earlier and just boom, like, all right, I don't care if you give me more nitrogen, this is how much I'm growing. And cannabis isn't like that, and it's, I think, like that with energy too. The more you interact, the more it gives back. The more the terpene profiles develop, the more resilient it becomes, and you really see it in the people that put the love in, man. It comes back tenfold.
And that's like an interesting thing, I wanted to say to you guys, like what you just said, because whenever I grew up like hearing about Tupper, right?
Yeah.
What I heard about Tupper was like, if you want to feed, that's what you run. Because it dries the quickest. Like you can feed it as much as you want through the Tupper. Like that's what we always heard out here in the East, because we always heard a lot of cats out West ran the Tupper in beds and stuff. And the depths, they'd run it, and ins, like they would run the cocoa. Like for me, for indoor, I'm a pure, like straight cocoa guy.
Okay.
So I've always run no perlite, just
pure cocoa.
Straight, pure cocoa.
Like 2 gallons?
3 gallon pot.
3 gallons. Okay.
9 plants per 4x4, 9 per light.
Yeah.
Train them up nice. And that's how I've always been. And so like hearing about the Tupper was like, I'd see cats running it in photos and beds, and like homies out West would call me and be like, yeah, dude, we're running the Tupper, that 70-30, or whatever. It's like, we're running that perlite mix, like, and it's just fucking, we can hit it, we can feed it 2, 3, 4 times a day, and I was like, what? Because like I feed ins in the cocoa once a day, full on feed, flush through, 25% runoff. That's how I've always done it. Yeah, every runoff for me. That's how I've always done it. And never saw any issue. Dry back maybe 25, 30% at the most for me. That's just my style.
Yeah, and that's a common style in cocoa.
Yeah.
And it works.
It works great, dude.
Quality is there.
Yeah.
And so you run mostly salts, or you do some biology in salts, or?
Like Synganic.
Okay, yeah.
So it's like my formulation of salt over the years, source the raw salt myself and like formulate that. And then from there, also kind of run some inoculant and some other organic kind of amendment that's water soluble.
Yeah.
On like a once a week kind of thing. I look at it like they're the kids. I'm giving them a pizza party every Friday.
Yeah.
That's how I look at it. And like
I like
so they're
that.
happy, you know. And every day they eat what they eat, but on Friday you get that little special treat,
Yeah.
and they appreciate it.
Well, biology is the precursor to the terpenes, man. It really opens the doors to develop the proper precursors in the root zone so the plant can actually create the terpene profiles in the first place. So I love all weed. Saltweed has its place.
Yeah.
Synbio, definitely.
Yeah.
I think produces some of the best quality out there in the world. And I see people kind of go the flip-flop of that where it's like all organic, pure inoculants except for Friday. I'm gonna blast it with some Athena. I'm gonna salt it heavy on Friday. Friday night party night. Let's get down for the weekend, bro. So I love that those hybrid styles are really kind of what's taken off.
Yeah, I mean it's changed. Like I started off growing organic.
Yeah.
And then I grew organic produce commercially for years. I did that too.
Oh,
you know,
cool.
Keep things on the book, you know?
Yeah.
And I ran an organic produce company and I grew that for years and did that. So I was all organic, dude, like for first 10 years, maybe a little more, you know, of the whole start to everything. And it took a long time, and then eventually like got onto the salts and just saw it for what it was. And then like the cocoa too, because in the beginning it's all like, you know, I think everybody starts with like a bag of Ocean Forest.
Yeah.
Like everybody starts with Ocean Forest or Happy Frog now.
Yeah.
Like now it's Happy Frog, but back then it was Ocean Forest.
Yeah.
And it burns the shit out of your plants right away. And it's like you learn, dude, you can't pop beans in Ocean Forest because it's just so hot and nitrogen.
So nitrogen.
And they're screaming, they're like, oh my God, you know, and it's no good. And then you eventually like, everybody wants to make a super soil, so you try and like Subcool was big back then.
Huge.
Rest in peace, you know. He was a true pioneer in what he did. You know, TGA Subcool, and he made the super soil. And then we all kind of were mixing huge, you know, just tarpfuls of super soil and letting it cook and like, you know, do its thing for weeks at a time. Then we fill garbage cans with it, and then we'd be just up potting in super soil. And we tried all that, and then we eventually got into doing like Pro Mix combos with like Pro Mix peat and then something else, and trying it and mixing it and cutting it, and then they're like, oh, it's really, the lime in there is like really affecting this. It's just this whole thing.
Yeah.
You know, so like you try all this, then you eventually land on cocoa. You're like, yeah, I'm not going back. Like cocoa is it, dude. Like I tell people, once you run a good run of cocoa and you really see how it reacts to you and how it's almost impossible to overwater it, right?
Yeah.
How it's a true inert media, and that no matter what you feed it, it's going to absorb predominantly what you're giving it. That you start with a clean slate as long as you flush that cocoa and you get out, you know, whatever residual salt is in there from travel and package. And it's typically got buffer into it. So it's pre-buffered, you know, to give you that benefit. And once you flush her through and you start from like zero or as close to, it's amazing to see like how you are in full control of that life of the plant now.
It's such a learning curve at first for a lot of people. Dude. They're like, I don't know what's wrong. I keep flushing it because it looks like it's burning. And you're like, no, when was the last time you fed these plants? And you're like, well, they look like they have too much, so I haven't fed them in 2 weeks. You're like, can you go 2 weeks without food, bro?
That's right, yeah.
No, you need to eat. You get the food back, and they call back. They're like, oh my God, it looks great. I'm feeding every day now.
Yeah.
And I really think the beauty of cocoa is, like you said, you get that instant feedback. And once you learn how to work with it, you get the sustainability, you get the speed of nutrient cycling, you get that, you know, organic buffer vibe, you get a good home for the biology. Yeah. That's what brought me to cocoa 15 years ago too, after doing the same cycle of like all crunchy organic. Now I'm all salts. I want to get back to some of that organic love.
Yeah.
But I need some of the flexibility that salt gives me, and the ability to set up a feeding regimen and count on it. You know, those things are a benefit for scaling up.
Yeah.
It's all fine and dandy to make some TGA subcool super soil when you're doing 3, 6, maybe even 8 lights.
Yeah.
But now you got 30
or
50. How do you manage that workload?
it's a lot, dude. I mean, like there's companies trying to do it. They're putting out, like super soil pre-bagged, right? But dude, the cost of that for the grower, even buying pallets of it, is still incredibly high. Yeah. It's crazy. It's great. And then, like to fill bags that way, and like for me, if you're gonna run cocoa, you could do it in a hopper system. Like, there's some really cool ones out there. The Amish developed a beautiful one, dude, and it's reasonably priced, all hand welded and made in Pennsylvania. And you literally dump all the cocoa in there. It runs it through, breaks it all up, make sure it's all nice and homogenized. You could even throw a little mycorrhizae in there if you want to for some inoculation, whatever you want. Moistens it, hits it with a pre-mist, and then right down the line fills all your pots for you, bro. And it's killer, really killer stuff. So like, nice. Cocoa has so many great advantages to it. You get what you give it, and like Ziploc runs cocoa. He runs beds of cocoa with perlite and on a drip. And for pheno hunting, running thousands of cuts, and to run all of them pretty much in beds, getting the same feed.
It's so important for pheno hunting.
Yeah, to see what can take what, because finicky bitches suck.
Oh yeah, especially you try and scale up with a finicky plant.
Yeah, dude. Like I always hear stories about the real OGs, like stuff like that. Those cuts that they were running, like Bubba and all that. Oh, yeah. When those came around, like some of those were some finicky ass plants, man.
Oh, Bubba's tough.
Yeah, and that's a slow vegging plant, dude. That's like almost like a pure indica veg style of how it just takes forever, and like a hash plant, dude. I hate hash plant. I will never grow hash plant again. Yeah. That fucking thing grows and it just sits there and it does nothing.
I'll smoke it all day if you grow it.
But it just sits there, dude, all day and doesn't do anything, like a statue. And I was like, yeah, I'm never growing that again, dude. But that's how certain things are. So, a lot of these new things too, right, that are coming on the market, things are so inbred now. And
oh yeah,
things are so inbred. Like I remember genetics seen back in the day, tons of things that would come around. I remember the original Blue Dream, right? It was so silvery and blue, and it looked like these light fluffy pillows of haze, and it had the sheen to it, like almost a super silver haze did. Like that's a cut that we still have.
Yep.
And I see Blue Dream now, I'm like, that ain't Blue Dream. No way, dude. I'm like, that I can see it's got a pine look to it. It's got these hard, like, just really tight nug structure to it.
Very angular.
Yeah, and I'm like, that's not Blue Dream, bro. I was like, it smells like blueberry, but, that's not Blue Dream. Blue Dream was true. You knew when you hit it and you smoked it out of a Dutch or you rolled it up, hit it out of a bong, you knew it, dude. It was so boutique-y in its terp profile. It was so light, and it had that haze back end to it with, like, kind of that euphoric, feeling. Nah, like, a lot of these things have been lost to the wayside, man.
No, a big time. And even in Humboldt, you see a lot of them come and go, and it's because it's such a demanding market. Things are hot and then they're not, and it's like all of a sudden you can't move it. Like even the true sour, like we see it out here, or you hear that it's still out here. I don't see it out west at all anymore. Like the true real deal ultra gas sour diesel, I haven't personally come across in a long time. I tell it's still out here, but that's one of the most legendary genetics of all times. Yeah. And it's still disappeared.
Yeah, I mean, I know quite a few of the original sour crew that were holding things down. They hold the original, like AJ's still around. He holds his cut. It's just debatable, right? Like that cut's a little tired in what it is, right? And they want to run it through tissue, and it has been done and stuff, I believe. But even then, like a lot of what I hear too is like when people describe sour, and then when they say it to like the people I know that are from the original sour crew, they're like, yeah, dude, you weren't smoking sour. And they're like, what do you mean? I know it's sour diesel. Like, that's what they told me it was. I know it was sour. Like, we always called it sour. They're like, yeah, dude, but listen, there was only so much. Like, if you consider AJ sour to be the real sour, okay? If you consider that to be the holy grail, the father that came from that herm seed, that,
with the mask
with the mascog and the Hawaiian that was in there that pollinated and created the sour, right? If you consider AJ's to be the godfather of it all, there literally was only so much of his grown in one warehouse in the city at any given time, or in a couple other spots that he was running, then not everybody really did smoke AJ Sour.
No.
So other people knew that you could get 56, 80, 64, 80, whatever, 100 a pound, because those packs of sour were fetching insane numbers, dude.
Because there was only so much.
There was only so much, and people would prepay ahead of time. They'd throw bread down and be like, "Listen, put me down for 2-piece. Let me get let me get a 5-pack if possible. I'll pay all up front. Before it's the new round's even vegging."
Right.
And so a lot of the stuff that people were getting, they claim is like, all right, well, maybe the sour that you were smoking was actually like, maybe it was like a platinum something, maybe it was like, just a gassy pheno of whatever. It's hard to say, but
yeah, and it's hard to say when that AJ cut really got out and actually like escaped.
Yeah.
And what little pockets had access to 2 or 3 people that were pulling, micro runs of that. And, I love that legacy storytelling lineage, but we're moving past it now, right? Like
it is true. And like AJ's doing his thing right now. I have to say, like, great dude, has done his thing for many years, and came back to New York. He was out in Cali for a while, still splitting his time,
Yep.
And, I've had my minor interactions with him, and my people have always been really close. Always received blessings in a good way. But like he just came back to New York and just did a run, full on depth run of his cuts in one greenhouse here in the valley with Flower House, and he's gonna debut that into the legal market, his AJ Sour.
Sweet.
So it's like you're gonna be able to see that, because a lot of people in this market already have tried to fucking capitalize and say, oh, we got sour.
Yeah,
we've got haze,
yeah.
we've got
the
sour,
Soma
right?
sour,
or it's the Res Dog, or it's like the Soma, or I even see people still running some of like Adam Dunn's stuff, like his Sage and Sour,
which has got great
which
genetics
is fire.
too.
Like Adam's a cool dude, known him for a minute. Like good vibes with them. But like that's not New York sour. Like
No.
That's not New York City. Like even the New York City diesel is not sour. That's something different too. East Coast sour diesel is something different. Like everybody knew the money that was there by calling it that. And like we can't forget why it's called sour. It's not because of how it tastes or any of that, bro. It soured relationships. That plant made people steal from each other. The amount of money you could make made you rob your best friend and never be friends with him again, and steal all his weed from his grow and take his cuts and fucking burn down his room. Like that plant and that name sour destroyed people, and I still see it to this day, tearing people apart. It's disgusting, dude.
Yeah, people chasing that.
Greed.
Yeah.
It's greed, bro. And this herb is supposed to be like, this is a gift from I believe in the universe. It's a gift from the universe. And it's a cosmic energy that was passed down from whatever holy existence of matter and like just being came to be, and blessed the earth with this and said, this is how people unite. This is how we heal. This is how we love. It makes things better. If you're struggling, this plant can help you get through that struggle.
Man, I'm so glad you say that, because that's why we're here now today, why we are meeting now for the first time and instantly have so much common ground. It's like we've been talking for 20 minutes and I feel like, dude, you're my brother. We've been fighting the same fight for 20 years. And we're here for Cannastock, an actual sanctioned, legal consumption event.
First of its kind.
First of its kind.
With a farmer's market, with a cannabis market.
With a farmer's market where you can buy legal tree.
With a seed exchange. All of it.
Yeah.
So like,
cuts out in the open, beans, the whole thing. Yeah.
It's finally getting to the point where we can openly share and elevate the plant, and it's really amazing. It's on the same timing as in Humboldt County. We had our first event of the same style just a couple weeks ago. Cannafest, big up Steve. And Martin from Cannastock was out there checking it out. He was out at the Emerald Cup. They had, another one in Illinois, the first of its kind in Illinois, just less than a month ago. The world is changing, and I'm just so thankful that we all get to be a part of it, and thankful for the people that have fought that hard fight in each of these individual legacy pockets to make it happen.
Yeah, all the people that went to jail, man.
Yeah.
I keep it real. I'm honestly not the biggest fan of the term legacy.
Okay.
And just how whoever chose this, we didn't vote on this shit.
And what's it truly mean?
That's what I'm saying, because to me, legacy means it's something beautiful that you leave behind. Dude, I got chased by helicopters. I ran from canine dogs with turkey bags in my fucking hands down the street full of weed. I lost shoes in the woods. I got beat up by cops, thrown up against walls, fucking beat to shit. You know, like, my mom scared for years and years and years, dude, like, that I would get killed or that, like, I would just be locked up in a way. And even the fear I had of, like, knowing my dad had cancer and I was still running legacy, and if I get booked up and I'm put away, like, and my dad dies while I'm in jail and I never get to see that, like, fuck that, bro. You know, that's bullshit. Prohibition was bullshit. For you to
Still
come
is.
around now and be like, okay, it's cool, it's legal now. It's like, yeah, after you fucked everybody's lives up, you put people in jail, destroyed families, like, that's not legacy. You know what I mean? Like, it's bullshit is what it is. So
Right, it's oppression.
It's oppression. It's oppression, it's prohibition, and it's extortion, dude. And the government is worse than, you know, other people, and they can do whatever they want. And that's what I was always told. So to now be able to be like, I still don't fully, like, put all my concerns to the wayside, because I'm like, listen, I may be able to do this legally. I'm paying tax, everything else is cool, but it's like, they still want to fuck you up, they'll fuck you up.
Oh yeah, they're still
You know what I
raiding
mean?
illegal farms in California,
Cali, they've been doing it
all
for
over
years,
Oregon,
bro.
everywhere.
Oh, your permit's wrong, or oh, you don't have this, you know, ease of access road to your farm or something, so we're gonna hit you with an easement violation, and then you got to go spend $100,000 to get an easement or whatever. It's crazy, dude.
It's nuts. And the other really cool, you know, not to
No,
sideline too hard, but the other cool thing about this graduation, though, is the competitions.
Yeah.
And I really want to touch on this before we wrap things up here, because I know you're involved.
Yeah.
You got some entries in.
Sure.
You're hoping to take home the cup. This is one of the first major cups in New York, right?
First legal adult use cup, for sure. I mean, there's been a lot of legacy contests and stuff and competitions, but this is the first full-on, to my knowledge, adult use, legitimized, sanctioned cannabis cup, and the cups are made by the cat who made them for High Times for 20 years.
Sick.
In Woodstock, New York, you know?
So
Handcrafted.
I got to ask, what genetics did you punch in?
So for us, we submitted my signature product called the Tsunami.
Okay.
And that is a infused pre-roll product. It's the best-selling infused pre-roll on the New York market right now in the adult use stores. We went with the Space Queen cultivar. That's the Cindy Romulan cross.
I love that.
Old school cross. Full flower into the pre-roll. Then we hit it with a cannabis concentrate. In this case, it's THC distillate.
Okay.
That's what we had access to at the current, not a lot of hydrocarbon and rosin right now.
Yeah, it's just emerging.
So we're going to move into the solvent list for sure. That's where we're headed. But we hit it with the Disty, 200 milligram distillate in each shot, into each 1 gram pre-roll, and then with cannabis-derived terpene as well, to also accentuate that pre-existing limonene and myrcene and pinene dominant terp. We went with the lemon lime CDT terp in there too to boost it, and we're pushing like 3 or 4% terp in that pre-roll, and 30.8% T, 36% total THC. And we just got a new batch that's hitting on Monday too, coming up. That's triple infused. So we went even bigger, bro. Yeah, and
awesome.
That's the Citradelic Sunset from Ethos, and the new one too.
I love that Citradelic.
So that's the one we just did. Yeah, it's killer. My boy ran it Living No Till outdoor, and fire, dude. Just
So
fire.
amazing.
Nice.
We're elevating, you know, a lot of stagnation on the market right now. A lot of simple, you know, oh, here's my ounce, not even trimmed, you know. Everybody's got a gummy, and it's just the same disty and a gummy with different flavoring.
Yeah.
And I'm like, bro, it's boring. Let's do something, you know, let's go crazy. Let's do it. We're legal now.
Let's go real.
Let's go. Everybody's scared, bro. I'm not scared. Let's do it.
Yeah.
You know, let's fucking go crazy. So I came out to Tsunami, you know, and because it hits you like a tidal wave.
Yep.
Fucking strong.
I love it. The Seven Seas Tsunami.
Seas Tsunami, that's it.
Where can you track down the Tsunami? Are there, you got legal dispos?
Yep.
And I know it
All
flows
legal
around.
now. All legal.
Sick.
100% legal. And it's at a bunch of different stores throughout the state. You can find out info on our website, 7seasco.com. Follow us on IG at 7seasco. And we're getting into 4 more spots too. We're from Queens all the way up to Johnson City, Binghamton area, and then we're gonna go further up too. So it's just, it's growing, but this cup would be killer if tomorrow we can really, solidify legacy to legal movement. And like I said, the term legacy, I may feel how I do about it, but I know what it also represents in my mind, and what I know it represents from my journey and struggle and what I've gone through. And to get to this point, I know it also represents what others can do. And so a lot of cats hit me up, how can I do it? How can I go legal? And I'm showing them the way. I'm bringing other people up.
Nice.
I'm not walking away from, I'm bringing other people up with me, because that's what I want to see come into the market and breathe in that fresh air, that new life.
Yep.
Remove that stagnation. Innovate.
100%, man. That's amazing. Thank you so much for sitting down with us. We're night zero here, kind of. We got pushed back a day from the rain. We got the Andy Frasco pre-party about to go down.
Yeah,
we're going to go sit down and try and talk with him, and then we're going to get our game on tomorrow. Thank you so much for joining us, Colin. I hope people check you out. Check out the Tsunami, that 7 Seaz. Get in with that Sensei Cultivation. You can hear that consulting service that knows, that's been through it, that can help guide you through these rough patches, man. Check it out. There's people here to help that have been doing it for a long time. So, let's carry that forward. And
we're New York, man. That's it.
Yeah. I want to say thank you once again for listening to Royal Grown Radio. I'm Michael Beck.
I'm Marcus Messina.
And we're joined by Colin Decker, 7 Seaz Premium Cannabis, Sensei Consultation, and so much more.
That's it.
Thank you so much for your time, brother.
All right. Cheers, guys.
Bless.
Much love.
Cheers, man.